It was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into the KC Sports Authority podcast. Keegan Russell here. And when you see Chris and CJ on screen, it means we're going to talk some Chiefs football. Not a lot happened in the last week since we talked last, but want to talk a little bit of some free agency. Obviously, we know the big news dropped last weekend with L'Jarius Sneed getting traded. So we're going to dive into some of the aftermath of that trade, some of the things that might set up for us moving forward in the rest of free agency. But first, real quick, shout out again to our sponsor, Churchill Cigar Lounge over in Topeka, Kansas. One of the best cigar lounges in the area. A great place to go and relax in a comfy lounge. They've got a large selection of cigars, pipes, and pipe tobacco. A lot of great, interesting characters in there. A great place to sit down and have a fun conversation. Try some of their house blends, the Eagle Maduro, made for them exclusively by Rocky Patel. They've got all sorts of great specials on over there. They're also promoting their upcoming smokers event that you've heard us talk about here on the podcast. That is happening in May 18th on that Saturday. $100 ticket gets you access to the event, all day long parking lot event on site. It includes 10 cigars in that purchase, as well as a meal ticket to a food truck of your choice on site and 2 free drink tickets. They will be having deals with cigars all day long with some of the top vendors, top guys in the industry will be there on site to hang out with and learn some more about the cigar world. We'll also have live music, food trucks, local breweries, and hourly prizes all day. So make sure you check them out. If you do go to see them and you buy tickets for this event, make sure you mention the podcast. You can also give them a call at 785-273-0102 to purchase your ticket. So again, thank you, Churchills. We're excited to be partnering with them for the duration of March Madness, which unfortunately for myself and any KU fan out there is over. But it's been fun. March Madness has been a good time. Any teams really stand out to you guys so far? I know we're going to get into football, but just want to briefly touch on. I think there's been a lot of fun games in the last week, but how's March Madness going for you guys?
I'm enjoying the Creighton team, man. That double OT Oregon game was crazy. Oregon just ran out of gas, that's probably my team. I'm kind of wouldn't mind seeing a run, even though I got Houston, North Carolina in my championship. But Creighton going on a run wouldn't upset me.
No, same thing. Creighton's been fun to watch. That Oregon game was crazy. Definitely the game of the year is definitely that Houston Texas A&M game. Crazy.
Man, that was wild down the stretch.
If Texas A&M could have pulled it off, that would have been fun to see. But my Final Four is still intact. I got I had UConn, North Carolina, Houston, and Creighton. Creighton's one of my favorite teams as well. Yeah. I like Creighton a lot. So I think I have in one bracket, I did the opposite. I have either North Carolina or UConn winning a championship. I think those are the two best teams left in the tournament. So those are the two teams I bet on before the tournament started, and it's looking like that's the two best teams that are probably going to be end up standing. So that's
absolutely. It's kind of funny. Just quick side note on UConn. Coach Hurley over there is still complaining about their seed, their draw, their path, all sorts of things. Being the 1 seed and blowing out their last 2 opponents, he still had stuff to say in the post game both times about their draw. And he's like, I see what the committee's doing here, putting the whatever, man. You're winning by 20 plus every game. Not much to complain about, but yeah, it's been fun. If you're a KU fan, you want to check out our episode about the loss, which we briefly touch on, and then we dive into the offseason. You can also check that out over here on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, like this video so that more Chiefs fans, Royals fans, KU fans can find the podcast. You can also listen to us over on Spotify, of course. You can hit us up on any of our social medias at KCSA Pod. But fellas, let's talk a little bit of Chiefs. Obviously, we know the big news last week was L'Jarius Sneed getting traded. Not really a big surprise. Once it's kind of floated out there that a player is potentially on the block, it's pretty likely they get moved. It's just a matter of when and for what. There was a small chance for a while that we kind of thought that maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs would retain him and let him play on the tag this year. And turns out that was just all talk to try and get some more offers. But he is traded to the Tennessee Titans for a future third-round pick in 2025. So I want to start with that. The compensation piece itself. I know, CJ, you guys were talking about this a little bit earlier on Tell the Truth over on Kingdom Cast. What do you guys think about this compensation? Obviously, it's probably not the best deal they could have gotten, or at least it was at the time of the trade. best deal. But what do you guys think that compensation does for us moving forward? Should we have held out, traded him for something else? There's a lot of talk on 2024 draft versus 2025. But what are you guys thinking about that future pick there?
I don't hate it. I don't necessarily love it either. You would definitely prefer that pick to be now, this year's draft, use more ammo. But once you kind of like everybody's been saying, once you know the player's not re-signing, you kind of lose leverage because the team knows, okay, you're not signing them, but you're eager to get rid of them and try to get compensation back for them. So why would we be so eager to give you exactly what you want? We'll give you somewhat fair compensation, but not what you ideally would want, which would have been a second rounder. But that have been this year or next year would have been fine for me. But it's hard to get a top 64 pick or a top 60 pick in general for a guy who's he's 27 now. The cons of the situation, if you're looking from the Tennessee perspective, they'll say you're 27, he has a knee injury, he's older, and obviously he doesn't even resign. So why would I give you ultimate value? From the Chiefs' perspective, he was the best corner in football, should have been all-pro. We know he was snubbed, and he's obviously can be your lockdown number one corner, and he's not going to be a headache or a distraction in any kind of way. He'll be a leader for your locker room as well. So it always sucks to see you not get the – but how many deals actually go great where both teams actually win if it's not like a top 10, top 5 player in the league? So we just saw Justin Fields go for a bag of chips. Lance went for a 4th rounder and nothing. So Dallas. So most guys don't really go for their elite value. So it does suck to see it go that way. But happy for Sneed. He deserved his money. Well deserved. Great player for us. I'm happy to see he got to get paid and go somewhere where he can definitely be successful and continue his career. But yeah, definitely would have liked to see more. But we kind of knew this was the scenario. Once Chris got done, Sneed was the next domino to fall. And now we know we have 7 picks going into the draft. Let's see what Veach can do some moves. Maybe he moves up. Maybe he trades back. Who knows?
Yeah, the compensation doesn't surprise me at all. I was a little surprised it was for 2025, but it felt like he was going to be a 3rd round pick. I thought 2nd would have been you have that you take it immediately.
Facts.
So clearly that was never on the table. I get it. I want to preface this by saying the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl without Sneed. They're not in a position to do what they did without Sneed last year. But we keep saying he's a snub, and I get why there's some things that back that up. But if the players didn't think you were one, the fans didn't think you were one in the Pro Bowl vote, and the media didn't think you were one, maybe you're not quite as good as us in Chiefs Kingdom think. I mean, there are some other things. He did lead the league in penalties. How many of those yards that he didn't give her up were to penalties? Now, I'm not trying to make this sit and bash the guy the whole time. I'm just giving reasons on why maybe the value wasn't what we were expecting. So Sneed's a great player. Like you said, he's going to be a huge impact for the Titans. The writing was on the wall. We knew he wasn't going to be in KC, mostly because of cap room and because it's the best position Veach is at discovering. So why pay a bunch of money for that when you already got McDuffie? You already got 2 young guys, 3 young guys if you want to include Connor on there. Yeah. So I'm not too upset. I'm not up in arms like some of you and Chiefs Kingdom are, but definitely going to miss him. But it was the right move.
Yeah, it was one we were expecting to have happen. I think you could go back and forth on, well, what if it was a 4th round pick this year? Would you take that instead of a 3rd round pick next year? Whatever offers were on the table, this is obviously what got it done. Sneed also gets his contract extension. I think it was 4 years, $74 million, give or take, 76 somewhere in there.
55 guaranteed. Yeah.
55 guaranteed. I think it puts him at 4th or 5th at the cornerback slot now for moving forward. So Tennessee, obviously said, hey, we know your concerns with them, so we're going to give you a 3rd round pick next year, but we'll go ahead and sign him to the contract extension, which of course you kind of have to if you're going to make that trade, unless it's all in next year. But if that was the offer on the table, would you guys have offered that to Sneed yourself if you're Brett Veach?
No,
I know we've talked about what his contract value was before, but that would still slot him about $19 million a year, 19 and a half.
Yeah, he got the tag. I think that's a proper number for what he was asking for.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken it with that. I would have done exactly what the Chiefs did still.
Move on.
Definitely not more than 1 year.
It works for other teams. Now, again, if you're telling me that's a different position that the Chiefs struggle discovering, then sure, I'm probably taking it. But again, corner, I'm not nearly as worried about.
Facts.
I think the only I guess interesting thing I wanted to touch on about the trade itself, and I know I told you guys this the other day. Last Friday night, before the news broke, was the NFL 101 Awards in Kansas City, which was a lot of fun. I had the chance to go to that this year, my 2nd year in a row, going for my job. We're one of the sponsors, so that was a lot of fun. Just be there, hanging out, saw some of the biggest stars. Stood next to T.J. Watt and was like, "Holy cow, that's a big dude. That's a future Hall of Famer I'm standing next to." Saw a bunch of the Chiefs stars, but the craziest thing is literally right at the end. I'm talking like within 5 minutes after the conclusion of the entire ceremony. Brett Veach is literally at the front table, sitting there with Andy Reid and all them. 5 minutes after the ceremony ends, I'm getting up, walking towards the middle to go find some more guys to talk to and get pictures with. Comes across the phone, Chiefs trade L'Jarius Sneed. I look at my phone, look up. 30 feet in front of me, there's Brett Veach standing there, just standing around casually talking. Andy
guys,
Reid had just left.
Hey,
Some of the assistant coaches are there. And I'm like, you just traded away L'Jarius Sneed at an event where you couldn't be on your phone the entire time because it's an award ceremony. And you're over here and there's no media around. There's no writers you can talk to.
did it on purpose.
And yeah, there's no one to sit there. And I'm sure some of the people there that saw would probably ask some questions in his circle and whatnot. But I don't know. I just thought that was really, really interesting that I'm standing 30 feet away from him when the news broke and he's just having a good time. Can't get bothered by it at all because there's no one around to ask him about it other than, anybody in the circle. But no, I found that very interesting. But yeah, one-on-one awards was a lot of fun. But talk about breaking the news Friday night as late as possible to where you can't really deal with it till the following weeks. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So shout out timing there.
Genius move, Veach. Genius move.
Yeah. So moving Sneed, here's what it does to in addition to the compensation. Now let's take a look at the cap space. So according to Spot Track right now, the Chiefs are sitting at about 14.7 million, give or take. Now I do not think that includes the signing today of the Irish rugby player, which we might touch on for a few minutes there. But as of right now, the Chiefs are almost at 15 million ahead of the draft. So obviously have about a month before the draft hits. I think if my calculations are correct, they're going to need anywhere between about 7 and 10 million of that for draft picks, depending on how many picks they end up with. But for me, this is the other win of the L'Jarius Sneed trade, which we've talked about before, clearing out that 19 million on the books so that we can use for other positions. We've talked before about how the Chiefs are so good at developing corners and finding value at that position that they never spend a lot of money. So are we shocked that they're not spending $19 million on a corner this year? Absolutely not, because that's never happened. So now that we've got some of that money to play with, I want to kind of look around at some of these other positions of need, from things like maybe a veteran corner, offensive line, looking at left tackle, backup running back, backup quarterback, another receiver, defensive end. I know CJ, you're definitely still big on let's use some of that money to go get another D end out there, whether that's re-signing Mike Dana or going out and getting somebody else on the market. But with that money, each of you guys kind of give me the next position of need that you would suggest some of that is allocated towards ahead of the draft.
Anything for, if I like the priority of list, for me, left tackle number one, obviously. And then 2, I would put D in. Receivers probably the least of my worries, obviously, because we signed Hollywood Brown for still such a steal contract. Still can't believe he signed that. I still don't believe he actually took that deal. But the receiver class, obviously, we said is so deep. Like, this is probably the best receiving class. I know it's early, but since like 2014, and that class had Jarvis, Odell, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, such a deep class. So having 10 receivers we can talk about, and we're not even getting out the second round, receiver's not a worry to me, honestly. So, yeah, if we're talking about spending money, it would definitely be DN or tackle for me. And obviously tackle probably being the first and foremost because you have to protect Pat at all costs for sure. And obviously I don't think Wanye's ready to start. I don't think most people in Kingdom would want him to start for a full 17 games. So, yeah, I think bringing back Donovan Smith probably makes the most sense and not then check that box off the list. And you can go into the draft and just go full defense, get you a receiver that you like, and let's get this thing rolling.
Chris, you going any other direction than that, or is it tackle first?
I'm waiting. Like, I'm not letting that money burn a hole in my pocket. I think I'm probably waiting post-draft to really use it outside of maybe a small move here or there. Because, like last year, we all knew receiver was a position of need. We had no cap space when, like, DeAndre Hopkins was available and some of these other guys. So there's potentially going to be a tackle or a D tackle or a defensive end or someone that it's going to get moved or going to get, whatever the case may be, become available that now the Chiefs have some money. Let's be honest, we like this roster a lot. Like, outside of, like, maybe wide receiver 3, left tackle, and D-line depth, like, even then, I'm not as low on Morris. Like you say, fans wouldn't want him to start 17 games. Like, based on the other 4, if Juwan Taylor plays like he did the last half of the season for the whole season, I'm okay with that. Because, again, for this team, the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think left tackle is as important as it's been, put in our
maybe
brain.
since Eric Fisher.
Yeah, like, yeah, just with other, with the, I said this before, like, the left tackle, Joe Theismann's injury, and with your Tom Brady's and your Peyton Manning's, like, huge. Like, it is the second most important position. But with your Josh Allen's, your Lamar Jacksons, your Patrick Mahomes, it is very important. Do not get me wrong. But if you have 3 very good linemen and another good one in your right tackle, Mahomes' escapability, as long as there's no push up the middle, makes me okay maybe trying Morris out. Now, do I want Smith on the roster? Do I want a contingency plan? Of course, but I don't know if it's as high of a priority for me as it may be for some of the other fans.
Yeah, so let's talk some of the tackles, just the free agent tackles. Obviously, we're still a ways out from the draft, and we'd have to put together a little bit of resources to move up to probably get a high quality tackle in the first round. So let's just say the Chiefs don't go that route, and the plan is now Wanye Morris plus a combination of draft pick and free agent signee. A couple of names that we've mentioned before, but now that it's been a week later and there's been no movement, I think the biggest one out there that people are talking about, just because he's still younger and did not work in New York, but that's Mekhi Becton. A little bit of left tackle, a little bit of right tackle. Thoughts on him?
Injury prone.
Yeah.
Would you throw a flyer his way, or is it not worth the injury concern?
Donovan Smith.
Because we know the talent is there.
If it's a 1-year stopgap, give me who's ever the most available. Give me Donovan Smith. He'll be available.
Yeah. We can go through this list if you want, Keegan, but I think the sentiment between CJ and I are going to be the same. Like, Donovan's probably my one, like, just because he's already been in the system, and again, I don't hate Morris being there, so I'm in the minority.
That's good. That's good with me, by the way. I just want to throw that out there because he's the name out there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
If Wanye took over the job, like halfway through the season, they say, "All right, Wanye, you're starting the rest of the year." I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
I just didn't know if Wanye would be ready to start from October or September all the way through January. I don't know if he's ready to start every game because there's going to be growing pains. Nothing wrong with that. But what if he started 10 games and Donovan started 6?
Yeah.
And he magically had an injury. And they say, all right, Wanye, now you're ready to start. And then he starts the rest of the way. I'm cool with that. Bless you.
Yeah, and now Wanye gets a full off season to prepare and develop and get ingrained into the system. And we've talked about this before, that sometimes when it comes to an offensive line, it's not always about how talented each guy is individually. It's about how does the 5 work together as a unit. And if you can have that cohesion early on to where you're not having to plug and play guys in throughout the season, they can develop that early on in the off season. Then not that talent isn't important, but if they have that cohesion together, then they can work a little bit better off of each other. So yeah, I'm all for that. I think that's what seems most likely, is that a guy like Donovan Smith is probably back. The national perspective has been throwing out Mekhi Becton and David Bakhtiar, but we know injury concerns have been massive there. And why even worry about something when you've got limited cap space to fill some other positions of need? So yeah, I'm all for that. Or if we have the right pieces in the draft, we'll get into that a couple of weeks from now, but move up for a tackle in the first round there. What about other positions of need? Are there certain guys on the market right now that you're like, hey, if he's still here in a couple of weeks or maybe after the draft, we call him back up? Is the answer, let's just re-sign Dana while he's still available? What are your guys' thoughts there on the defensive line specifically?
Emmanuel Ogba's a good name. Obviously, he's been here, been in our system before. A guy that has versatility, could play inside out. A guy that's obviously been in a lot of different defenses. I think he's been in Cleveland, Miami. So he's played under a lot of different defensive coordinators. So he's very versatile in picking up schemes. And I think he can come in at good depth. If we don't sign Mike Dana, I think that'd be a great guy to come in here and bring in for sure.
Yeah, I'm sounding like a broken record, and I'm also not being as entertaining. But I'm stuck on waiting. Like, seriously, that's how good I feel about this roster right now. Like, see who's available, see how the draft falls. If you get who you like in certain positions, attack those positions, even if it's a smaller pool, which it will be. Obviously, there's going to be a few guys that sign over the next couple of weeks, but it is going to slow down because a lot of teams are going to be in that waiting game. Just because you have this money doesn't mean you need to go all out and spend it. Sure, Mike Dana would be great, but what happens if your 15th DN falls to you in the 3rd round on your draft board or whatever, and you feel okay him as a depth? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there that maybe it's not as big of a priority on April 30th.
I think most of the guys you like are going to be available after the draft anyway.
Right, exactly.
Looking at this list right now, there's 15 to 20 guys that I would consider, and outside of maybe 5 or 6 of them, most all of these guys will still be there in a month or two.
So like,
and that's why, I mean, we talked about this last week. That's why signing Chris Jones was so huge. You
Get
get that out of the way, and now we're not worried about jumping on the next thing. You know, we've got the solidified piece on the line. We brought back a couple guys in Derek Nottie and Turk Warden. You know, now we get to see Karlaftis in a whole nother year. We get to see what FAU can do with an offseason to prepare. So there's not as much pressure to go out and fill that position. Obviously, we know Charles Omeni, who's going to miss half the season, give or take. So you don't have quite as many guys at that depth position currently. But that was one of the luxury things about signing Chris Jones early is now you don't have to. You don't like we can sit here and say, hey, we've got 6 to 8 weeks to sit here and just kind of relax, sit back, see what the rest of the league does, watch these other teams overspend on guys early just to get the position filled, while the Chiefs have the luxury of waiting around and filling in some of these I would consider somewhat minor pieces because they've got their roster pretty much set. So yeah, I'm good with you there. That's why I figured this segment was going to be really quick because it's hey, hold off, use some of that money later, see who's still available. There's still plenty of guys that could get dropped later too.
The amount of mock drafts too I've seen the Chiefs taking that DT out of Texas that people really like.
Which one, Murphy or Sweat?
Murphy. I've seen a lot of that at 32. Like, so like
if he falls at 32, good luck.
Yeah. No, like again, it's mock drafts, but I'm saying like if they take a DT at 32, then like we're not probably out of the defensive lineman from here on. So
yeah, and listening to a couple other Chiefs podcasts this week, I'm not saying I completely disagree with some of those that are more plugged in than I am, but if we spent a first round pick on Felix last year, even if you don't know what he's truly capable of yet, don't you want to go into an offseason with giving him as much opportunity as possible? And I'm not saying they're not going to sign other guys later to compete in that room because they're still going to, but why do that early on when you still have no idea what you have in your first round pick? And if you've spent a first round pick on him, you don't want to just, take away that opportunity right away. So why not get him those early reps as quickly as possible and see how he fits in alongside Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. Yeah. Another position I'm totally all for waiting on. A couple of guys I do want to throw out there just from a name standpoint, a couple of positions. And I know we briefly touched on this last week too. And of course, a week later, there's still plenty of these guys available. So absolutely no rush. But backup running back is one that I'm still finding interesting. I can 100% guarantee they will pull somebody in the draft or a rookie undrafted free agent like they did with Deneric Prince last year. But CJ, you said it earlier on your guys' podcast that, I know you're fine with going into right now with just Pacheco, but there is nobody else on the roster technically currently. The guy that I would love now that he's cleared and everyone's talking about, of course, is J.K. Dobbins, a guy that I've always felt would be just super fun in this style offense. He did get, what's that?
Is he really cleared? Or is that
supposedly?
Or is that just Twitter talk?
Could be Twitter talk to get some of the offers going.
I need Rick Burkholder to clear him first. If Rick don't clear him, I ain't signing him, Keegan.
I'll already tell you what Rick says. He's day to day.
Rick say day to day. I don't want him. I don't want him.
Trigger warning.
Eric Berry all over again.
Yeah. But if it wasn't J.K. Dobbins, and again, not saying you got to sign him tomorrow, but I know we talked about Cordero Patterson last week. Obviously, he just signed with Pittsburgh. That would have been fun, especially with the new kickoff rules.
Man, that would have been dope.
Which maybe we'll get into that too. But are there any guys that you would look at that you think would be a good addition as the RB2 outside of the draft?
I like Cam Akers.
I love Cam.
Yeah, I think that's a guy.
He's young. It makes sense. Yeah,
a guy like is Rashad Penny. He's still out there, right?
Yep.
He's kind of interesting.
Just a little injury prone.
Right.
He can hit it, but God, when he's on the field, he's good.
Right. He's an interesting one. They'll be like, maybe wait to see what they do in the draft. I know we keep saying that, but like, if you not necessarily in love with the running back or the undrafted free agent you get out of the draft, maybe Penny's not bad just because it's like, or maybe stay away from Penny. But if you love the running back you got and you think he may have a chance to be RB2, then you can take a chance on Penny because he's not as reliable.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just like CJ said, he's super talented when he's on the field. He's just never on the field.
God, he's good.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3 years ago now? That Seahawks backfield, it was just like, take your turn. If one of them's healthy,
right,
they're going to have a big game. And Rashad Penny was on the end of that quite often. Other one I kind of like, I know we mentioned him too before, was Damian Harris. I think he'd be an interesting kind of semi-change of pace back. What?
I thought he retired.
Retired?
Was that a joke? I thought I saw it on Twitter the other day.
Maybe I missed
Damian
that.
Harris.
It is so hard to keep up with every
I
single.
think he
individual
retired.
move.
Maybe I'm not tripping, but I could have
That's why
sworn
I
I saw a
asked
tweet
about.
the other day saying
That's why I asked about Penny. I was like, I haven't seen any news, but that doesn't mean I didn't miss it.
Yeah, the only.
I
hadn't seen anything on name, but like the one I keep waiting to see is if Latavius Murray's going to retire because he's
Right.
like super grandpa age for a running back at 34, and he's still productive.
Yeah.
But yeah, running back, another one of those. There's no way they sign anybody relatively soon.
Yeah,
That's going to be a
retired too
late
busy.
addition in the summer.
They just signed their running RB2.
Well, yeah. Okay, let's talk about that for a second then. We get the Irish rugby player, Lewis. I'm forgetting how to say his last name now.
Zamit.
But big time guy for a running back position. It sounds like he's gonna be kind of one of those gadget players that they're gonna figure out how to mold. And it kind of reminds me, I think it was a couple of years ago in the draft. He was the guy from like Germany or something, like Moritz Boringer or something. I don't know if you guys remember that name. But I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting today, seeing that. I know they brought him in for a workout the other day, and could be an interesting piece, especially with
fellas.
Yeah,
We've been
especially with a guy that comes
years.
from
We
the
finally
rugby
got
background.
one.
He's got that physicality.
He runs a 4.4. Like
He's a big boy. I think he's like 230,
6'3", 240.
That's
runs a
a big boy.
4.4. Can clearly take a hit if you play rugby, but like
there's your new fullback.
That's basically your eighth back now.
Tight end
Kyle
4.
Juszczyk, all that
NFL's
stuff.
just
That's
a
him.
different beast, though. Like
Dave Toe's gonna love him. And those return game.
Just because you're an athlete doesn't necessarily mean you can play. But like,
Sure.
I'm excited to see what he's got, just from a marketing standpoint, which the Chiefs have been
If you can figure it out,
crushing.
man,
The Chiefs have been crushing on that. But like,
if he can run and block, bro, that's all I need him to do. He doesn't ever have to touch the ball for me. If they think he can return kicks, obviously you play rugby, but you're carrying a center block instead of a football. But if they think he can run and block, it's not that hard to go out there and play H-back, honestly. If you're an athlete, you can get in a 2-point stance and go block somebody.
There's your new 4th and short guy.
Yeah, like just hit somebody, wham. And it's a wham block. You don't got to kill him. Just get in his way. If you go out there, hit him and let Pacheco slip inside you or whatever running back has the ball, that's all I need. Slip in the flat, maybe catch a little dump down.
Be our brotherly shove guy. He knows how to be in a scrum.
Exactly. Like,
oh yeah.
If you have a guy this athletic, I'm asking you to go block people, bro. That shouldn't be hard for you. So if he can play H-back, that would save us a million headaches, and Chris can stop yelling about our 4th downs. So
no,
it checks all our boxes. Toe likes him, 4th down, H-back. Let's go.
I'm not gonna stop yelling until Mahomes does a QB
it's
sneak.
The tradition now.
It's
never
literally
happened.
That's literally the only thing. They could be 20 for 20 on 4th downs and 3rd and ones.
You ain't quarterback.
And if it wasn't a Pat sneak, I'm still yelling. Dude can do all this other stuff. Dude can scramble away from get in the face of Max Crosby, do all the things, but
can't do a quarterback sneak.
Chris is going to be at Andy's retirement. What about the quarterback sneak?
That's be the first question. Like if Andy retires, and hopefully a long time, but Pat's still like
Matt Nagy. Are you now going to the quarterback sneak on 4th down?
Question. That's my first question.
Well, speaking of the quarterback position,
get this guy out of here. Get him out of here. First thing.
One that we never really talk about because we have the greatest quarterback in the league, and we don't want to talk about injury, knock on wood, ever. But we're seeing around the NFL, teams are starting to get more competition at that QB2 spot. Some of that's because their QB1 they don't trust so much. Pittsburgh being an example. There's not really a ton of guys out there, but what's that?
Shots fired. Sheesh.
Well, Russell Wilson, we're going to come win a championship, and then 72 hours later,
he said,
Justin Fields. I think that's actually going to be a fun competition to watch throughout the year.
Is it a competition? I thought they said he can't play because they'll have to give up.
They said Russell's the starter early on, but come on. Justin Fields is far more talented than Russell Wilson. That was kind of fun. We talked about that at the end of the episode last week, and then literally 2 hours later, the Bears make that trade. Right. Did you guys see the press conference that Ryan Poles had with I forget who he was, but they were asking about what was the response like trying to talk the fans into the idea of trading Justin Fields, and he's like, oh, my son's the biggest Justin Fields fan ever, so that was like the hardest, is trying to tell him, hey bud, it's going to be okay, we're going to do what's best for the organization. I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting. But backup quarterback, don't want to spend much time on that. Blaine Gabbert could obviously come back. Doesn't really do anything for me. Is there anybody out there that you wouldn't mind kicking the tires on as a backup QB, just on the off chance Mahomes does have an injury for a couple of weeks, where you'd feel better about that spot than what it's been the last year or so?
Joe Flacco was supposed to be a Chief, but he wants to be a loser and go play for the Colts or something. So my dream is dead,
where he could play. I don't even.
Didn't he get a decent contract with them though?
Yeah, he did.
Is I don't even know. Is Josh Dobbs still available?
Yeah, I think so.
he just makes sense because, again, you're hoping he doesn't play. But if he does, I want someone smart enough to run the offense.
He can win you a game.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know. Again,
sign me up for Carson Wentz.
I don't hate that either.
I don't hate it either.
He would have redemption here so easily.
I'm cool with both. Dobbs or
Wentz. I don't mind Wentz.
Either one's cool with me.
My Wentz fandom lasted from August of 2017 to whenever he tore his ACL in December of 2017 or whatever that year that was. I loved Wentz.
Good old Nick Foles rides off into the sunset with the
Wentz
Super Bowl.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
but all right, last position here. Again, we know obviously signing Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown last week. Definitely raise the floor as well as maybe raise the ceiling in that wide receiver room. It's pretty obvious they're probably going to draft at least one or two receivers, and we're not going to spend time talking on who those guys are in the draft because there's a ton of them. It's a deep class, so they'd be kind of silly not to go get somebody. But there's still, a little bit of room there for a different type of, maybe a possession receiver or the guy that did somewhat of what MVS did because, you guys talked about last week that Hollywood Brown is a lot more versatile. He's not just a deep threat over the top speed. He can do a lot of the intermediary stuff with Rashee Rice. But are there any receivers out there, and I've got one in particular I like, that could maybe fill that other bigger body down the field threat, or another guy that you're like, man, if we could just get him in the mix in this receiver room, he'd be a good, solid veteran addition?
I mean, maybe.
Josh Reynolds got signed. KJ Osborne.
Yeah, Reynolds is the one I was hoping on, and I saw that today. Good contract for him though.
I don't think Odell's ever going to come here because he hates snow. Who else would we sign? It's tough.
I don't know.
There's not enough superstar power in Kansas City for Odell yet. Unless Taylor's here all the time.
Facts.
No, like
Jones is going back to Detroit. I'm surprised Reynolds actually left. He would have Denver must have offered him a bag. He left Detroit.
There's just not a lot of people that would convince me to not give Tony and Sky another shot.
Exactly. Like these guys we're bringing in, you might as well just keep the guys who know the system.
Right. You have Rice and Hollywood as your 1-2. Ideally, if you take a first-round receiver or even a second round, he's probably your 3.
Exactly.
And that means Tony and Sky, both, especially Tony. I think Tony's going to have a lot of value in this new kickoff format, by the way. But like
the short kick, hell yeah.
Yeah, like he's
sign me up.
Sky might too, but like Tony for sure. So like
a short kick with less blocking.
If they take
it's going to be so weird to get used to at first.
If they take a receiver high like we all expect them to, I'm okay with them kind of holding, like not making any moves that would receiver. Now if they don't, then we may need to go try to get someone. But I don't hate the room. If Tony and Sky are your 4-5, I don't hate the room.
Yeah, and you still got Justin Watson. You still got Justin Ross, Nico Remigio. They're probably going to add at least one or two other guys. They'll probably go into training camp with maybe 12 guys that are worthy of competing for that 6-7 spot. I don't know if they'll take 7 receivers this year like they started off last year, but two of the guys that I still would like because I think they'll be cheap, especially with how things are starting to slow down in free agency. I still like Hunter Renfrow as that kind of change of pace receiver. I know he's not the biggest receiver and does similar stuff in between what Rice and Hollywood can do as far as the possession. But I kind of like him. Allen Robinson's been one I've liked for years. I know he's getting a little bit older, but I think he'd be super, super cheap. But then the one that I keep coming back to is Michael Gallup. I think just his size, his ability to get open, again, another one who, when healthy, has capability. But yeah, there's a lot of receivers on this list that there's no reason to jump on anything. I do not understand. Maybe 2 years ago, I still like the hype of Odell. I do not understand the hype of him now. The guy is too much of a drama diva guy, and he's going to want way too much money unless he's taking a 1-year, $4 million. No, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it's perfect. I don't mind Gallup either. You know, even though he's not quite.
Did he finish the season healthy, or did he finish?
McColl's still out there too. Like,
yeah,
no one else is going to take McColl after the drama that he's had this offseason. So,
wouldn't it be funny if the Jets re-signed him for some reason?
They would
never.
They
never would.
They would never.
Heck, I'd still go take Byron Pringle. I always loved seeing him in this offense.
He got a shout out the other day by. They were talking about
say bring D-Rob back. He already got signed.
Yeah.
Oh, never. I know nothing. Oh. D-Rob and Tony on the field at the same time.
Who do you hate, him or MBS more?
Who do you trust more?
Trust more? Neither.
I think I would still trust Demarcus Robinson more.
The MVS should have been the biggest moment.
Yeah, I'm saying MVS. You said who do I hate more? It's probably MVS. Who do I trust more?
Trust
it's
more?
also MVS. Like,
I hate D-Rob so much, bro.
Yeah, but he just could catch it and run backwards.
run
Nah, that's
backwards
funny.
on
He actually looked
purpose,
decent
bro.
this year for LA.
He
MVS
didn't look
at least
bad
catch the
for
ball
the
going
Ravens
forward, and
last
D-Rob
year
will
either.
literally catch the ball and run backwards. I'm like, bro, you get on my
Yeah.
freaking.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Like,
sign me
they're
up
not even in the
for,
same
for
class.
something new.
They're not even in the same class of receiver. Like, that's why, like, MVS is so much better than D-Rob.
Yeah, MVS.
Well, let's end it there. I think that's a good spot. Still plenty, of course, to come over the next few weeks. We will probably not dive into quite as much draft talk as what you'll see around because there's just so much to get into, and I don't want to just re-hit the same points that everybody else does. So if you want a lot of draft talk, make sure you check out what CJ's doing over at Kingdom Cast with Tell the Truth because he's all over draft coverage this year. We'll talk about some draft stuff. We'll have a couple other guests that come on to give us some mock drafts and talk about some players that are in the target, the bullseye for the Chiefs in the draft because it is a pretty deep draft for a couple positions that the Chiefs will be looking at. So a lot of excitement there. But yeah, free agency is now at the point where it's probably going to start slowing down. You might still hear a bunch of names getting tossed around because agents are trying to find the deals before the draft hits. But I would venture to guess, if not maybe one other move, we might not see much else coming until after the draft happens and see what positions are still left to fill. Yeah, still plenty. What's that?
I have a hot take.
Yes.
It's probably not a hot take. Draft day, T. Higgins is traded to the Carolina Panthers for a day 2 pick, and they will use that pick to take Brian Thomas at LSU.
Okay, man, he went all of it.
You went deep with that.
He hit all the spots.
It's like an AJ Brown type move. Remember, he got traded on the day of the draft. Same type thing.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense being a draft day trade.
Yeah, that's my spicy.
If the Panthers do that, then we'll
give Bryce Young some help. He gets a receiver. They have
didn't they just pick up a receiver too this offseason?
Yeah, they got some
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah,
Okay, they got Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen,
Claypool, or not.
I think they still have Terrace Marshall.
Terrace Marshall's still there.
And one other young guy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Give him a number 1, pair him with Deontay and Thielen. Let him see what he can do.
What about Houston instead?
Are they that desperate for receiver? They have 2 good ones.
Yeah, Tank.
They have Nico and Tank. So it's like, are they really desperate for receiver? I feel like Carolina's desperate. The Giants are desperate. Arizona's desperate. Arizona would pay T. Higgins for sure.
Arizona might get Marvin though.
That's what I'm saying. But if they wanted to pay him, I'm not saying they have to, but teams that have cap space and have money and have picks. Carolina, Arizona, and New York all have money.
We could spend all night doing this, TJ.
New England could do it too.
So here, let's do the triangle of T. Higgins moves. Stephon Diggs is traded. You know, all these guys are moving around, and all right. So
that meme of that guy in the room who does like all this.
Yeah. T. Higgins goes to Buffalo. Stephon Diggs goes to Dallas. Whatever. Get on.
New England, they're taking a quarterback. Give him a number 1.
But yeah, a lot of trouble.
Maybe they do something different
on the table.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up there before we continue to spiral more out of control. He's Chris and CJ. Chris, where can they find you? It is baseball season, so it's a lot of baseball talk. I already saw your post today. Opening day tomorrow. I saw your post about your predictions for the year.
It'll be nonstop, so I was just warning you that. And it will be a lot. It'll be about 60% Royals, 30% Phillies, and 10% the rest.
I got a prop for tomorrow too, if you guys want.
Yeah, let's give opening day prop.
I got Cole Reagans over 5.5 Ks and Lopez over 6.5. I parlayed them together. It got me a plus 250 on FanDuel.
Hey, season long ones that are easy to put together is last I saw the Rays were still like 83.5. Hammer that over, and the Dodgers were at like 104, something absurd. Hammer that under. Because like the Giants, Cardinal, or the Giants, D-backs, and Padres all got better. So like,
yep, D-backs just got Montgomery. They're loading up Snell to the Giants.
That's my long term. I mean, it's only two leg, but that's my long term. Like, feels like locks.
I took Bobby Witt for 50 stolen bases. I think that's easy money. He had like 49 last year. It was plus money too. So I'm like, well.
Yeah, and he'll be in a lineup now, as we've talked some baseball in a couple episodes. He'll be in a lineup now with some better guys around him that he might get some more opportunities.
Chris Royals, 80 plus wins plus money.
I ain't taking that, man. I'm going like
Plus
73
money.
to 77.
Yeah, I haven't found a good win prop for
They got
the Royals.
Yeah.
they
since
got their
we're
lines
taking-
like 74.5. So it's right
Yeah,
over.
I know. I ain't
Right
touching
over,
it. I'm
Chris.
not touching the Royal stuff, man.
No,
There's
I
too
have
much
done the one where
unknown.
they don't finish last. I found one of those where you could find them to finish 4th or higher.
Yeah. Reagan's
about
is
the
like
one I took.
14-1 odds, or
Or
to
if
win the Cy Young. That's
Yep.
for a guy who has 70 good innings in his career. Those are great. Like I ain't touching anything Royals right now. I'm too scared.
Don't be scared, Chris.
But yeah, baseball starts tomorrow, so you'll see Chris tweeting a lot about that. CJ is always involved in something. Always. There's always something up his sleeve.
Home run tomorrow. Book it, Chris.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I'm working on my opening day home run parlay
ticket
props.
No, it's the
Make some
forgotten man. Who's the most popular man that no one's talked about this offseason? If I'm putting one person ahead of Dinger tomorrow, it's Salvi.
For the Royals?
For the Royals, yeah.
Salvi.
Yeah.
Salvi
No
live.
one's talked about Salvi all offseason.
Royals money line with a Salvi home run. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll do that. I'll touch that
Opener,
right
let's
now.
go. Let's
All right. All right.
Say less.
Watch Bobby hit one on the first pitch.
I told you, Bobby's gonna be like, "Oh, I got this money." Bobby said, "I'm comfortable. I got money now." All right.
We'll have to tweet out a couple
I'm gonna
parlays
parlay it.
for
Salvi
opening
and Bobby
day.
home run. Hey, put it together right now. Put it
There
together
we
right
go.
now.
Pablo Lopez.
And
Last
Bobby
time we
home
saw
run. Put it
Pablo
together.
Lopez, he was carving up the Astros though. So like, I don't know, but
So maybe 10 strikeouts tomorrow?
yeah.
10 Ks.
I don't know. This Royals line's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Reagan's and Lopez 7+ Ks each. Okay.
I do like that.
I like it too. I think it's like
Reagan's could get 5 in the first 2 frames.
Reagan's is a dog, bro. So I can't believe his line was at 5.
The Twins were like
he's
second most strikeouts last year too. Buxton and Royce Lewis at the top of the lineup strike out a lot too. So like, we're going down a rabbit hole that I can take us down all day.
Yeah, let's wrap it. Okay, so again, CJ, where can the people find you?
CJ, where can the people find you?
At CGZ81, CJEEZY81, like it says on the screen right there. If you guys want any plays, any information, I have a great college slate for the turn March Madness this weekend. So if you need any plays, hit my DMs. I got some good stuff.
Tweet some of those out.
I did go crazy this past weekend, so I was doing some pretty good stuff. So
I did not have a successful March Madness betting weekend, but I am running an NBA hot streak right now. I've had $320 plus winners in the last 5 days.
let's go
on small bets. So if you want to tail any of those, I'll post some of those out tomorrow. But yeah, let's wrap up there. Again, thanks for joining us. This has been the KC Sports Authority podcast. Like and subscribe wherever you watch us or listen to us from, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.